The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Listen in as your host, Casey Colburn, brings together a perfectly picked panel of guests to discuss hot topics and events within the metaphysical and paranormal field. But don't worry, should the discussions get too heated, our studio's witch will sound her cackle to simmer the cauldron back down. Listen for new episodes of Cauldron Talk with Casey Colburn every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. only on Paranormal Buzz Radio. Welcome to Cauldron Talk. This is Season 3, Episode 3. And today we're talking to Madison Smith. Today's episode, we will be catching up with her and talking about the increase in paranormal activity around the holidays. Welcome back, Maddie. Today we are going to be talking about some of the things that you've been up to and catching up a little bit on just as a whole. And then we're going to be talking about the paranormal activity during the holiday season and special occasions. Before we begin, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
So, my name is Madison Smith, as we all know. I am 14. I've been doing this 3-ish years. And, yeah.
So, for the paranormal, do you have any new adventures coming up? Any events or anything planned that we should be looking forward to?
No new adventures, only my podcast. That's really it for now.
Yeah. You just had a couple of cool names on, too, didn't you? Rob Thompson was one, correct? Was that fun?
Of course.
So I imagine life, it gets very busy for you, especially since you're still in school and everything. So what's it like to balance life between your home life, your school life, and the paranormal life?
How I explain it is it can get really hard sometimes, to say the least. But at the end, it all sort of works out.
Right. Do you ever get, really overwhelmed or anything like that? And how do you cope with it?
It takes a lot to, stress out that bad about things. But, yeah.
Yeah.
I usually just focus on one thing at a time, or try to.
Okay. Well, that's
So live by the hour kind of thing.
That's good. Definitely solid advice. I mean, if anybody is, kind of going through the same thing and you're feeling overwhelmed, just try to take a step back and take it one step at a time. Maybe even break it down into smaller steps if you need to. Personally, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'll do some breathing exercises or I'll meditate. Do you do anything like that?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Not very often, but sometimes.
Getting into a little bit with the paranormal, your methods are kind of interesting to me because they're very old school. You like to use things like the dowsing rods and pendulums and things like that. How did you get into using some of the older school methods?
So for me, I kind of got introduced to them. So when I got introduced to them, I thought that they were really cool because I'm more of the hands-on kind of person. And the old school stuff is more hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
So pendulums, dowsing rods, anything like that, I love using those.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And your set of dowsing rods I find to be particularly practical for the field too because they glow in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's super cool because we can finally see them, because most of our work is in the dark. I think probably 90% of our work is in the dark. So to be able to see them, I absolutely love that. And I would definitely love to have a set sometime too. With my set that I currently have, it's a little bit difficult to use them for the majority of an investigation because it is so dark. You can't really see them. I mean, on a personal thing, which way they crossed, but you can't really use them for like a public tour or anything, because nobody can see what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I really like the practicality of your dowsing rods, and I think that's super awesome that you're so young and you're using such an old school method. I don't think a lot of investigators now really use it. They're more into the modern tools and everything, which is great. It's fine. It's whatever. But I do like to see the old school stuff still being used. So that's awesome. Okay, so for our mini topic, we're going to talk about the reports of paranormal activity increasing or decreasing, just the changes within the paranormal activity during the holidays. Do you believe that there's any changes that happens during the holiday season or special occasions?
I feel like something could happen or like trigger it. Kind of like some stuff at Gettysburg when they have the reenactments. Some of the nearby stuff where like the battlefields tend to get a little bit more active. I feel like that could trigger something.
Oh, definitely. I definitely think that certain times of the year and some of the elements that goes into it, like the decorations and foods and everything else like that, I think definitely act as a good trigger object. Um, so last year we brought in a Christmas tree to the Hinsdale house, and it was like this complete shift of energy that just took over, and it was all positive, and the spirits seemed like they really, were very happy with it. And I mean, who knows how many years it's been since there was a Christmas tree there or anything like that. So I think it definitely did, like, bring back memories for them or something. Maybe it was just the Christmas spirit. I don't know. But it definitely did enhance our paranormal experience at the house. Yeah, I don't really know if we will ever really know um, why there's more activity, but there is far more reports during holidays, special occasions, and that sort of thing. So like newborn babies or the death of a family member or the holidays or anniversary, birthdays, all of these type of things definitely do have more reports of paranormal activity happening. So have you had any like paranormal experiences or anything that, you know, you can think of off the top of your head with the holidays?
I don't think I personally have any experiences that would be in that category, sadly.
That's all right. How about within your paranormal work? Have you noticed anything like a change or increase in activity during like Halloween or the winter months or like Christmas? Any changes there? I don't know if you go into the winter months with your events or anything, but if you do, have you noticed anything?
So I think around Christmas or like the winter time, it does get a little more active. I don't know if it's just like the cold weather or something that's going for it, or maybe just the Christmas spirit. Who knows?
Mhm.
But, I think that Christmas is one of the more popular things. The things just work out.
Yeah. Yeah, something I've really noticed too is just that there is just more activity. I don't know if it's just maybe they've had a break from the para season and so now they're able to like be back to full potential with it, or if it's just because we're home more now, so we're staying in, we're kind of being a little bit more quiet. The snow kind of dampens sound and everything too, so it kind of makes things quieter. And maybe that's just what it takes to be able to really notice all of the different little things that maybe we don't notice the rest of the year. Maybe there's just more like EMF in the area because of the snow, that is energy also, that's water. And so maybe there is a little bit more just energy or something for them to take during the winter because of the amount of snow that's just basically just sitting there. So maybe there's something with that too. I don't know.
Yeah.
As far as like metaphysically, I mean, there's probably 100 different reasons as to why the paranormal is more heightened during that time. Um, Personally, I'm leaning more scientifically with this just because I think that they are, it's a human spirit, so they're still going to have all those emotions and all those thoughts and feelings and memories just the same as we do now. So I think that maybe they're just going with emotions, they're excited because of a very human, basic reason. Um, and then, I would really like there to be something more to it. The Christmas spirit and Christmas magic and all that, but I don't know if there necessarily is for this one. What do you think? Do you think there's such thing as Santa? Do you believe in him at all?
I don't believe in Santa personally, but if there's any little ones watching this, do believe, okay?
Yeah, he's kind of something you just kind of grow out of. I do still enjoy his character though, and the history of Santa Claus. Don't so much enjoy the commercialist side to Santa and Christmas. But I do like that, he still does bring cheer and just a good positive vibe to the holidays, specifically when it comes to children and getting their imaginations going and getting that excitement going. I do very much enjoy that. But believing in him myself, no, not for a long time. I did when I was little, but not for a long time. Regardless of him being like a real entity or what we'd consider like a cryptid or an elemental or anything like that, I do believe that there's a possibility that because so many people, which I get that the majority is children, but so many people um, actually do believe in Santa and believe with their everything, because they are children, so they're more willing to do that. Um, I think that can kind of build and create entities, much like we did with Slenderman, who didn't start out as an actual entity. He was something that was created, and now people actually report seeing him. So, what do you think about that?
So, to that, it could be something more, but also, there's this one thing, I can't remember what it's called, but there's like a scientific name for it. It's when you think of something and you believe in it so much, like you believe that's going to happen, that you start seeing it. And people have had that in investigations, like where they'll look into the dark and be like, oh, there's going to be something up in the hallway. And then their eyes will make it look like there's someone at the end of the hallway, kind of thing.
Kind of a trick of the mind a little bit.
Yeah. So it could be that, or maybe there's something more, like you said. We'll never know, I guess.
True. I don't know that we'll ever really know. And I was just thinking about it too. I don't think during my winter investigations, I don't think I've ever once just asked about Santa Claus or asked if he was real or try to communicate with a spirit that maybe is, that kind of like stereotype for Santa, see if maybe they try to come in a little bit more. Maybe, spirits like my dad used to be Santa Claus every year, so maybe he would try to be Santa, or come out just because I'm talking about him. I don't think I've ever talked about or asked about Santa during an investigation. It'd be kind of interesting to try out. You'll have to try that at the Hinsdale house and see if we got Santa Claus there too. Huh?
I would love to see that. Count me in.
Yeah, that would be entertaining for sure. Um, I mean, it can't be too far-fetched. I mean, we do try to communicate with um, spirits, for one, aliens, Bigfoot, you name it, we're trying to communicate with it. And even though what we know as Santa is a made up fictional character, there are ties to Santa Claus, like Saint Nick, um, in actual lore, and same with like Krampus and Jack Frost and Father Winter, So, I mean, there's a lot of them that we could maybe try to communicate with because they're based in lore just the same as the other creatures and spirits that we are also currently trying to communicate with. So maybe it's not too far-fetched. So looking back, have you had any experiences where you thought you may have seen Santa Claus, or you may have seen like the reindeer or anything, maybe even Halloween related or something? Is there any experiences where you thought maybe you had seen it? I know for kids here, like seeing reindeer and seeing Santa Claus is a very popular report. Um, I think mostly too because the schools get very involved. Here, like the schools will always have us make like the reindeer food and things like that, which is not anything big, it's just like rolled oats and glitter. Um, but have you had to make anything like that in school too? Like, I don't know, is it just like a Western New York thing?
So personally, the school that I went to, or the elementary school, they never had us do anything like that. Like they never had us make reindeer food. They would have us make like little crafts, but never reindeer food.
So maybe it is just like a Western New York thing. We have like a huge deer population, so maybe it has something to do with that. I don't really know. I just know that um, all of my siblings' kids have, now brought home reindeer food, so it's definitely a like tradition here. We're getting a little bit off topic with this, but whatever, it's cute.
Oh yeah, man, just feed the reindeer some glitter. There's some reindeer food for you.
Yeah. Well, that's the magic. Getting back into the paranormal a little bit, what are your thoughts about Krampus and Jack Frost and the other ones that are based off lore? What do you think?
So love Krampus. Like just the lore behind him and everything. Love that. And then like the way that people describe him, I think it's cool. Like just,
Mm-hmm.
Jack Frost, on the other hand, growing up, I never really heard about him except for like the movie Jack
Mm-hmm.
Frost. And I'm not sure what to think of Jack Frost since I'm not really like educated fully on it except for the movie. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't think I've really had too much of a paranormal experience for Christmas. I don't know if this would count, but when my mom was pregnant for my little sister, I was maybe 7 years old. And I remember a dream, and Santa had come to me in the dream. He had told me to tell my mom that she shouldn't worry about the baby and that he's bringing the baby on Christmas. Um, I woke up, I was very excited. I grabbed my mom's stomach and I told her, Mom, don't worry about it. Santa's bringing the baby. She chuckled and said, I hope not. And that's because she was overdue. So she was like, no, I don't want to wait any longer. I want this kid out of me. Um, but sure enough, on Christmas, my sister was born. So I don't know if maybe that was like a family member coming to me in the form of Santa or what it was. If it was just really Santa, I don't know. I just know that I had this dream, which ended up being kind of like a precognition, of sorts, saying, hey, this is when your little sister is going to be born. Mind you, I was 6 or 7 years old. There's no way I would have been given that information as to when she would have been born. That's an adult thing. I wouldn't have been involved in knowing any of that information. Um, so I think that was maybe kind of paranormal in the sense of like psychic abilities and spirit communication. Not anything like spooky or anything, but definitely definitely my interesting story for Christmas. Again, like, I'll never know if it was, like, truly the Santa Claus or if it was, like, a grandparent that had passed on that was telling me, hey, talk to your mom about this, or what it was. Sometimes spirits will come to you in a form that you are going to be more responsive to them. So I don't know. What do you think?
I feel like it's up to them in a way.
Yeah.
Like, if they're going to say something to someone, like, for instance, your story where they came in as Santa Claus, that's something that everyone can recognize and just be like, oh, they are no trouble, they are no harm, it's Santa Claus, So I feel like it's more of a easing kind of thing, where instead of coming as, like, someone that you don't know and you're more weary about, they go as someone you'll recognize or someone that you already know.
And that's kind of why, like, with my readings and things that I do, and like with the paranormal investigations, I always say, like, ask direct questions so that we know that it really is Grandpa that we're talking to, and not just some, ghost that is maybe lonely, or, just wants to communicate, trying to pretend and tell us that they're Grandpa when really they're not. It doesn't mean that they're negative, it just means that they're not Grandpa, and that's not who you're talking to. So that's kind of why I like to ask the direct questions that only that person would know. We also see in the paranormal field where there's like a negative spirit that does try to convince you that they are something benign, like a child or a woman or a relative that's passed on. And so we do see that too. Ever come in contact with an entity that tried to mimic or pretend to be something else while on your investigations?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where at?
One of my favorite locations, actually, Dan Viner Furniture, also known as the old YMCA in Rock Island.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know, right? So I don't think it's there anymore. Like, it left after we found out that it was not what it was. But after, like, how do I explain it? So we were having, it was downstairs. We had, like, a circle formed. And there was a medium down there. They were talking to it. And they were like, you're not who you think that you are. You aren't that. And then after that day, I've never came in contact with it again. So I don't know if it's just gone or if it's just not talking anymore.
Yeah. Do you feel like it was negative? Like, do you feel it had ill intent with its, like, fibbing?
I don't think it was ill intent. I just think that it was trying to. So there was reported death in the building that was a little kid. I think that they were trying to be them to seem more innocent than they actually were. Because there was a lot of bad stuff happening in the building. So who knows? They could have been drawn to that and they could have been one of the people. And they were trying to hide that or hide the fact that they did that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I mean, I've my work at the Hinsdale house, the spirit that I refer to as the man of the house. Well, he gets called a lot of different things, and he just kind of takes it for what it is. He's got a really different sense of humor. So, like, if you ask him, are you the devil, or are you Satan, or are you a demon, he's gonna chuckle and he's gonna say, yes, I am. He really and truly is not. And he's, to my knowledge, he's not done anything that warrants being called negative. I think people just don't really know or understand the difference between just an active haunting and a negative haunting. And so I think that some spirits are just okay with it. They're just kind of like, sure, that's what I am. It's not really like they had the full intention of pretending to be those things. He just got labeled something, and so, yep, this is what I am, you know. But that's why it's important to ask, you know, pertinent questions that will get you more information while you're investigating, you know, and communicating with somebody. You want to get as much information about that person as you possibly can so that you know what to talk about, for number one. Two, so that you can actually have some, you know, information to try to research further in on the location and see if there is anybody that's there that fits that description. I mean, perhaps the fact that he does enjoy scaring people, you know, like he's all for that, like, jump scare, haha, you get scared of me type of thing. But I mean, I get it. I do the same thing. In fact, on one of my tours, I had a couple of my friends come, and they're kind of a prissier, like, girly girl type of personality, and they were down in the basement in the Hinsdale house, and we have one of the dolls are down there, and they were like, "Ew, what is that? Why is it down here?" And you know, they were just being like that. And I said, well, that's not what you should be worried about. You should be worried about the fact that she was just in the chair and now she's across her room. As soon as I said that, they went boom right up the stairs, and you know, I got a huge chuckle out of it because it was always on the ground. I just kind of made that up, you know, just to scare them. And so, I mean, I get it. I get into that type of thing too. I helped my mom and my family growing up doing a haunted maze and things like that. So we really kind of got into that side of things as well. Have you ever done anything like that where you just kind of like jump scared a guest or, you know, like somebody that you knew while on a tour?
Okay, so I don't like regularly do the tours, but sometimes I do. When people like, you know, like people that I know, like a big event, I'm like, okay, guys, I know the history, I can take you on through. But we have a Shrek doll, and I tied it on this string, so it's like on the stairs. People have walked up the stairs and got scared by it because it was like right there, and they didn't know what it was, and they screamed. And I was at the top of the stairs just standing there like, guys, calm down, it's Shrek. It's okay, guys. Yeah. It's just a green ore. Calm down.
That's fun. Yeah. I enjoy doing that. But yeah, so before I got into all the like traditional like paranormal haunted houses, I did mazes, like haunted mazes for like fun, and I enjoyed making illusions and everything like that for them, and just being creative, and then also being able to be like scary, spooky, you know, like being able to jump scare. So I think you've done a haunted maze, right? I think just recently.
I actually work at a haunted house, if that counts.
Ooh, so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Spooky, scary.
Mm-hmm. So, and how are you liking it?
It's so fun. I love it.
We used to run one every Halloween, and it would just, you know, we would build it using like pallet wood and different big building materials, tarps, things like that. And we would just put it on for the neighborhood, and it was an absolute blast. And it was like a nice way to be creative, like with a family, and be scary all at the same time. It was some of my most fondest childhood memories are with doing haunted mazes like that. Yeah, so we've done some pretty cool things, but yours, the one that you're working for, is a much larger scale operation where it's more commercialized, right?
It's like this old abandoned factory, and it's, if you ever have the chance to come down and like go through it, do it. It is so fun.
I would absolutely love that. It's actually on my to-do list for hopefully next year. Yeah, it definitely, looking at some of the photos that you shared, it looks like a lot of fun. Kind of nice too, because I've noticed that a lot of us in the paranormal field have that same connection with like haunted mazes. I've noticed that we have quite a lot of the same interest actually. There seems to be like a weird pattern where we're all into one working with spirits and paranormal investigating, but we're also into the haunted mazes and that side of things. But then we're also got this like weird animal working connection too. Have you noticed anything like that?
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of people in the paranormal, they have like a lot of the same hobbies.
Mhm.
Like, is that just me? Or like people, they'll name the same thing. They'll be like, oh yeah, I'm into this. And then like the person next to them will be like, yeah, I'm into that too. And then we just go down the line and like everyone's into it.
Mhm. Yeah, it's definitely one of my like favorite things about the field is that it kind of builds a sense of community because everybody's into the same stuff. Growing up, I just always felt kind of more like the outcast. I was the weird girl with all the crystals and things. And in school, like I got kind of bullied and made fun of because of it. So I definitely, um, I definitely appreciate having that sense of community and being able to just click with people. Does being in this like paranormal community help um, to like with being so young and being in the field?
Yeah, like it's nice to know that other people have the same interests as me because a lot of people at my school, they're kind of mean about it. They're like, oh, you're into that? Mm, well, you're weird. But knowing that it's not just me in the universe that has the interest and like just, like interested in that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
it just makes me feel a little bit better. I'm not the only one.
I am so sorry to hear that you've had to go through stuff like that. Trust me, you are not alone, and I'm sure many people have told you that. So I'm not going to give you the whole like lecture spiel. Um, but I definitely had my fair share of experiences like that in school. Growing up, working with my psychic abilities and things like that, I got called like Miss Cleo and different things like that that were just a little bit inappropriate and belittling. So it definitely just some things just never change, I guess. But I am truly sorry that you've had to go through that. I'm happy though that you do have that sense of community within the paranormal field. I'm happy that you were able to get something like that. Growing up, I didn't really have anything too much like that, but it wasn't really a thing back then. I know that's kind of like showing my age a little bit, but I mean, like I think Ghost Hunters had just come out. I don't know. I just think that it would have been nice to be able to have that type of thing, this type of community back then. But I'm very thankful that the newer generations, such as yourself, do have that. Have you seen any of the like original Ghost Hunters and shows that came out earlier?
Hmm.
Yeah, they were way different than they are now. What do,
Yeah.
what do you think though? Would you like to see more shows like back then, or are you happy with like the new shows, like the new Ghost Adventures and all that?
Honestly, I'm good with anything, but I would like to see more of the old school kind of stuff
Mm-hmm.
because I just feel like that was a lot more fun in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember when taps, they were very like they started to become very interactive.
Hmm.
Where on their website, like if you saw something in their show that they didn't say or see, you can um, tell them about it, and then they'll like make it part of the next episode or whatever, or, mention it somehow. Um, which that kind of like started to make it so that the TV shows were being really interactive with your audience, and I always thought that was like really cool, and I don't really know that we see that too much now. Um, I know Paranormal Con on Camera takes like the episodes from or video clips from people, um, but I don't know that they what their like reach out program is for it. Before we get too far ahead, I'd like to give you another chance to mention again all the different things that you're doing. So what kind of things do we have to look forward to in the future?
For now, like I said, there's no events coming up, but my podcast, my next show will be November 21st. And yeah.
All right. November 21st, everybody keep an eye out for her podcast. Information on how to get to her social media pages and to her podcast page. I will have that tagged in the bio of this episode. So if you're interested, take a look there. Do you have any advice that you would give to somebody who's just starting out in the field or maybe is younger for when they do see something like Santa Claus or Slender Man or anything that might seem like way too far-fetched? Because there are so many reports, what is your advice to them?
What I would say to that is tell somebody. Don't just keep it to yourself, Don't stress yourself out about it either. If anything, tell a parent. If they don't believe you, tell your friends.
Advice, I think, there's no sense to feel alone with it all. The only thing that I would add too is just document it. So just write it down. You'll never know who's also experienced that same thing. So just keep a record of it, and just anytime you have that experience, just add a little bit more to it. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on my show again, Maddie. I really appreciate you coming back on and talking to me about this spooky topic. For all of our listeners, where can they find your social media pages and your podcast?
Okay. So for me, my show is on Spreaker. It's Spooky Talk with Maddie, MADI. And they can also find me on Facebook at Madison Paranormal Investigation and Instagram at Maddie_Paranormal_Investigation.
Again, so much for joining me today.
You as well. Thank you for having me on.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining my circle tonight. It was a pleasure to discuss this spooky topic with you, and a thank you to all my listeners for tuning in. And as always, dreadful dreams. Remember, my darlings, to always be kind to those around you, including our friends with claws, fangs, and fur.